and welcome to the show. This is Alex Alexander. I got Nick Lamagna with me here today. And let me go ahead and turn this up a little tiny bit. There we go. So we are here on what am I calling it now? I have a podcast now, and we just started it. And somebody told me, they go, you got to put a name on it. And I'm like, I don't know what the name is. The High Performers Podcast. So that's what I'm calling it. That's what we're talking about. And of course, real estate is always in the picture. And we're going to go ahead and talk with Nick. Nick, we met 2 years ago. And I know you've been up to a lot of things. I've been watching your show. And so why don't you introduce yourself and tell the folks what you've been up to?
Sure. Well, first off, man, I love the name. I think that's an outstanding name. And I cannot believe that was 2 years ago already, man. That's crazy. But yeah, man, I've been just moving and shaking, trying to get a little bit better every day. The pandemic kind of gave you time to sit back and reflect on some of the things that I was procrastinating on that were holes that I needed to tighten up on. So I did a lot of housekeeping, cleaning up some foundations, tightening up my processes, figuring out how to get things good at the foundation level so I could scale up and have like a good solid foundation that won't fall apart later. So we were doing a lot of that, reinventing stuff and basically just working through a commercial project out here in Illinois that we were looking to get annexed in from the county and then final plat and entitlement for a 31 unit townhome development. So that got held up a little bit because of the pandemic. And what wound up happening was my business partner at the time, she was like, hey, don't be picking up a lot of other big projects until we get this one past the finish line, because as you see, when you're trying to focus on a bunch of different things, sometimes you drop the ball on stuff, and on a commercial deal that could be big money. So I was still getting deals. And so what I started doing was wholesaling commercial projects like small multifamily and mobile home parks and things like that. So that wound up being kind of cool. So when I sold off I sold off a 36 unit and a 66 unit. And after they were sold, I just kept the advertising up on all the generic sites that you would put it. So I had so many people reaching out, and you get to see as you sort through them who the serious players are, who's wasting your time. But there winds up being a bunch of good qualified buyers in the bunch, and they know what they're looking for. So we started doing a little bit of a reverse wholesaling technique, which finding out what they could get, what was realistic, what they would get approved for, and then kind of backtracking, finding it for them and wholesaling it out. And then while we did that, we've been wholesaling some stuff in the Chicago suburbs and doing some wholesale stuff that's been clearing like six figures, which has been kind of crazy and accidentally a nice surprise. So just doing that, man, and trying not to hit too many drive-throughs and really upping the game on the guest level for the podcast, man. People have been really freaking awesome about coming on. I've gotten some huge guests that have been just so awesome to come on and share their time that I've just been blown away by how cool people have been.
Holy moly, that was like a million things, which is awesome. That's really exciting. So talk to me about, because a lot of what you just ran through is exactly what I'm working on right now, where you're talking about shoring up and solidifying your foundation of your business and getting everything, accounting, logistics, procedures, writing it down. Can you talk about that some? Because personally for me, I want to hear about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think almost every day I wind up finding something else that I need to really focus on. I thought I was going to bring it with me. I'm carrying around a little tiny book, just something I could keep in my pocket. And every time I have an idea now, I'm writing it down because I always think I'm going to remember it and I don't. And then I move that over to a spreadsheet, and then I use whiteboards every day to basically tell me what are my priorities for the day? What are my secondary things if I can get those done? What projects we're working on? And I'm actually adding another one, which I feel kind of cheesy for doing, but I've listened to enough people on my podcast tell me to do it that I'm putting up almost like a vision board too for like, these are the things I'm working for. I recently got back from a trip and I was floating around in the pool in the hot tub all day, and it was way nicer weather than it is out in Illinois or New York. And I was like, man, I think that's part of the bucket list for next year is to go spend the winter somewhere warm and just make phone calls from the hot tub. So, backing up to your question though, I realized that I started a lot of things that I didn't finish, and there was other people that I did delegate things out to. And I think part of my responsibility as a leader, which I dropped the ball on, was really focusing in and helping put the extra time in to train the people that I put in place. So I think part of the expectation I had was I'm running out of time. I have too much on my plate. I need to hire, I need to delegate. And then you hire people. But I hired people that I had the expectation that they were going to be self-starters and thinkers like me. And they would basically look at what was going on, work towards getting things done, come back to me with problems. But what was happening was, a week would go by, 2 weeks would go by, I'd check in and they weren't exactly sure what the next move was. So I think going back and really figuring out the procedures for like, what's really my responsibility for these things? What do I need this other person to do? And then documenting those things and keeping track on Google Ads of, I'm sorry, Google Docs of, these are the things I'm doing every day. These are the things I can delegate. These are the things I should be making the decisions on. These are the things I hate doing. These are the things I'm good at doing. These are the things that they'll get out later. And really starting to keep a running tally on that. And then figuring out how to really put things in there where you're touching base with your teams every single day to make sure that you're not letting it go weeks without any communication and realizing that things were either getting done the complete wrong way or just not really getting done at all or getting done in a way that you really didn't want them done. So I've been trying to really touch that up and find ways to batch my time, use things like time blocking, and make sure that I'm a better communicator with the people that I'm working for. And really just learn more about stuff. Whereas I've gotten a lot of conflicting information, and I know there's probably going to be people that listen to this that think this is a completely wrong mindset. But a lot of what I'm doing as I'm learning stuff as they go through these classes and taking masterminds and going out like the groups that we were in, which was a great bunch of people, you get a lot of different business, not only models, but really the way people run their business, the way they manage their teams. And we probably had 30, 40 people in that room that were all multimillionaires that probably would have given different answers on what works for them. So I started to realize that there wasn't really one coach, one mentor, or one group that had it down. I'd spoken to enough successful people at this point to realize that you have to take a little bit of all of it and figure out what really works for you. And for me, it wasn't easy for me to just say, I've hired out all these things. This person's pulling my list. This person's taking care of my CRM. This person's doing X, Y, and Z. I couldn't understand how all the little bits and pieces worked and talked to each other. So I didn't have a clear picture on really where my money was going, what jobs were getting done, when my system wasn't working. And to me, I'm like, man, I'm spending all this money. I'm putting all this trust in these people. And at the end of the day, I just have to hope that all these dialers are working and all these people are getting contacted. And so I took a lot of time to really learn it, which a lot of people told me was stupid and it was wrong. And that's not what you do as the visionary. But I feel like until I understand how to check that stuff and figure out where there's holes, I've worked for businesses that were making $100 million a year that I helped run and realized that those things were not working. And when your business really grows and takes off, that becomes money that can sink your ship. Lee Kearney always told me businesses go broke making money every day. And to me, that's what always rang in my head of, even if money's coming in, how many leads are getting dropped, how much money's getting wasted, how many tools aren't working the way they are. So I really went back and I figured all those things out. And what I found was correct, that a lot of those things were not working. And I was getting to run around with people that were giving me defensive answers and making me feel like, well, I just don't understand it, so I must be stupid. And then as I dug in, I realized, no, like this is important for me personally to learn. Maybe other people feel different. And so that felt really nice to click and understand the systems and learn how I can now get to a point that when I have a reliable team in place, which 1 month you got somebody great and then they're gone, you got to train somebody else. But what I've done now is I've documented more and more that the hiring and the onboarding process has become way easier. I don't have to freak out if somebody new wants to come in tomorrow. And I know how to set my day that if I truly needed to, I could get up at 5, I could work for an hour or two, and I could set up all my lead managers and all my teams with a good system of leads and people that I know are working and firing off. And if that's all I got done that day, I feel like I did something that was now a revenue generating activity versus just a bunch of busy work. So I know that was kind of a long answer, but I think a short answer would be I've tightened up a lot of my systems. I've made sure that a lot of my processes are documented, and I've found ways to work with my time and really figure out what needs to be done as a priority and what's just busy work that makes me think I'm doing a lot, but I'm not. And I'd say that's still an everyday mission.
That's exactly the journey I'm on right now. Everything that and I've already started copying you on a couple of things. I saw just even Calendly, the scheduling app. Just even getting that, I scrolled to the bottom. I was like, what is this thing he's got that I use to book this? And so I scrolled to the bottom, I went and found it, and I was like, this is awesome. And as soon as I started using it, it started just saving time, because even the time of going back, you make the Zoom and then you schedule it and then you copy it and then you put it in your schedule and then you email it to the all that little bit of time, when it's every single day, it's just busy work like you're talking about. It felt like whenever I set it up, it almost felt like I didn't do enough. I didn't double check everything. I didn't email, but it has a part of it that's automated. So it emails, and people, they get a text and they get an email. That's humongous. All of these little automation bits and little procedures. That's exactly the journey I'm on right now, that I've just been working at it. And I've noticed, like you said, the people that I'm watching, it's still, you don't get to, there's not a place where you stop and you just go, okay, well, yeah, my business just runs now and I just hang out. That's kind of like this thought of a commercial or a movie or something, like a stereotype in a movie. But it really doesn't seem to be very realistic at all. It almost gets to where, and this is what I'm going through, is okay, now I free up all this time. What do? I'm bored, and now I'm looking for shiny objects. Like whenever I free up all this time and get my procedures, and so now I'm having to like get blinders on and just not pay attention, because there's so much out there that I can go find. Because that's sort of my strength. It's really easy. I got the CIO type of mentality. It's easy for me to go see the deals, find the deals, understand the deals, pitch the deals, and then the the CFO organization part, I'm always trying to get rid of. So, yeah. So what I'm trying to copy from what you were talking about is latch on and really learn it, and not push off accounting, QuickBooks, get into it and learn it. So that's one of the things I've been trying to do. I've been watching you.
Nice, man. Yeah, a few things, great talking points on that. Coming from a jiu-jitsu background, it's almost like, you get the white belt and then you get the blue belt because you've mastered that. And now you walk on to a whole nother phase and then you get that belt. So I feel like that's kind of how I learned is in increments. And then when I've got that and I feel like I've mastered that, now maybe I could teach somebody else how to do that because I've hit that next level, and then you can kind of step away from it. And, otherwise I feel like I keep going back and going back and going back. But even stuff like you said, man, there's times that, the day gets away from you, or you start to feel lazy, or, it's weird. Even like doing a podcast, sometimes you get anxiety, like, am I going to have enough to talk about? How's this going to go? And, so there's all these things. I get in my head a lot about stuff, but I'll tell you, Calendly, once I set that up, it really made a huge difference for, I found before I did that, it'd be like, hey man, can you talk, or can we do a podcast? Yeah. How about tomorrow? Cool. What time works for you? Probably out about 4. What time works for you? Oh, maybe 2. Let's circle back. I didn't, but once I send them the link, they book it. And now I go, okay, me and Alex, we're talking at 3:00 on Wednesday. That's set in stone. And I know, like, once I've gotten to that point and it's on the books, I'm not going to cancel it regardless of how my day's going. So sometimes there's conversations that I feel like I might have dilly-dallied or found excuses to reschedule or get out of. And the Calendly has held me accountable to keep those appointments and lock in conversations with people. Because, there's people that'll call, hey, can we talk? Yeah, sure. Book 15 minutes on my Calendly. They don't want that. They don't. But the serious ones, yeah. I just booked it right now. Let's talk. And I'm like, okay, so there's a little bit of a barrier of entry that you're not wasting all your time. But it's helped me with conversations I have with people that I don't really know that well, that when we lock that in and we talk, I am so happy I made that connection. And if it wasn't for the Calendly holding my feet to the fire on that, I don't know if I would have, if I would have had those. So it's been a great tool for me, not only for organization, but just keeping me accountable for making sure I'm getting myself out there and I'm keeping these appointments and I'm booking these podcasts and stuff. So it's been real cool.
It seems like it makes you step up your game too. And it immediately, just like you said, it kind of like wipes out the people that are not going to take the time to just book it. And it takes like, less than a minute to book. You actually book it out and you get, your email. And that's a big thing that we went through at the beginning of our business that we're kind of going through again, stepping up. And it's kind of the same thing over again. We did it with customers to where we were getting rid of customers that were just, kicking tires and wasting our time. And so we made it to where we wouldn't actually spend the time talking on the phone with people until they had gone to the website and looked and filled out the application, because we set up this entire website with every question you're going to, and so we have it there. And that was a huge, a lot of people got on us for that too. They were like, you're just throwing away all these customers. And I was like, well, you take them then. They're a ton of work, and they don't produce the amount. And I'm only one person. So I have to sift through, and I got to get through to the people that I know are going to, because the other thing is we do something different. We sell the land. So, I mean, it's a ton of, there's no sewer, there's no power. So if you're coming to me and you can't even fill out an application online that takes like 3 minutes, and I think you're going to go live off grid and like really try hard, it just kind of cuts people out really, really immediately.
Yeah, I love that, man. I don't know if you know about that. There's features on there that you can constantly adjust how many you have in a day, how much time they can actually book. Yeah. So that's been good too. That I used to freak out about like the timelines on there, Now I have more of an open schedule. And what happens with me is I have nothing. And then guys that I sent invites to months ago decide like I'm going to book. And then I wound up like with a whole week book. So I just go back and I go, okay, no more than one a day and I'll take out next week. So it makes it easier to kind of work with that. You don't get like bombarded. Because when you first start using it, you're like, what if everybody books every hour of my day? You know what I mean? But it doesn't really happen. There's ways to manage it. So it's cool. It's definitely been a helpful tool.
Yeah, that's great. So like I said, we talk about high performance, and you're also in sports.
Yes.
In MMA.
Yes, sir.
Now, can you talk about how the skills and the abilities and what you do in MMA kind of translate over? Because I find that, you know, people in sports and athletics and any kind of high performance, high endurance also wind up being like, you know, doctors and physicists and attorneys and people that take a long time to learn something. So it seems to be something between the body doing a ton of work and the mind doing a ton of work.
Man, I could talk about that for days. I love this topic.
Go ahead.
That's again, like, you know,
I'll sit back.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing where, like, yesterday I had Uriah Faber on my podcast. The episode hasn't come out yet, but you know, people see what that guy does in the cage, you know, fighting with two broken hands, you know, fighting another 25 minutes in a championship fight with two broken hands, and then doing things like fighting Jose Aldo and the amount of stuff that guy's done over his lifetime, but they don't see a lot of the stuff he's done on the business side. And I have this discussion all the time with athletes and with military guys and people that just do tough things every day, repeatedly, over and over and over and over again. And I have found personally for me that, like, one of my favorite quotes is, how you do anything is how you do everything.
Yep.
So the guys that I know, like the Chris Weidmans and the Ali Aquintas and the Uriah Fabers that are out there that literally go every day when they want to or not, because they have a fight coming up and they got to have the discipline to not be eating the cake because they have to make weight, and they got their ass kicked yesterday at the gym, but they have to be back the next morning for practice, and they keep showing up every day, even when you don't want to, and even when it's not fun, and even when you don't feel like it and your buddies are at the beach or you want to sleep in or you want to watch Netflix, you still have the self-discipline to go there and take those beatings and be alpha enough and confident enough to think, I can beat everybody in the room, but be open and humbled enough on a daily basis to know that you're not always the best guy in the room. And there are people you can learn from, and you are going to be the hammer some days, but you're also going to be the nail some days. And then having the open-mindedness to come back the next day again, put your ego to the side and say, I'm just going to get a little bit better today than I was yesterday. I got my ass kicked yesterday. I still might get my ass kicked today, but I'm going to try and not have it done as bad or in the same way as I did yesterday. And I think having the discipline and the accountability to just show up every day over and over again and have the tenacity to be somebody who's chasing greatness, but be humble enough to know that you don't know it all and you want to surround yourself with the coaches and the Matt Serras and the Ray Longos, I think translates very well into discipline of business, especially real estate, because, you know, a guy like Ali Aquinta, a guy like Uriah Faber, they're not going to get phased by going days or weeks with having people pick up the phone and tell them, don't call me, take you off your list, screw you, how'd you get my number? Like, that's just another punch in the face that they're used to. They're going to dodge, they're going to move, and they're going to find ways to get around that. And, you know, I think there's something to be said with just being able to take beatings and keep going because you want something bad enough that the down is not going to be enough to make you quit. And that's everything. And, you know, backing back into that question, for me, some of the things that I have learned that have translated huge into life and business, which, you know, I'll start with boxing. So I love jujitsu. I'm a huge jujitsu guy, but I started as a boxer. And I remember very much like probably people who listen to your podcast and go, I've seen Flip This House. I'll get into real estate. I'll put an offer in, I'll buy it, I'll fix it up, I'll make $1 million. How hard could it be? And they don't see all the stuff that really goes into it from the day to day. That's kind of how I felt with boxing. I was a power lifter and I was like, I lift a lot of weights. I'm sure I can beat up the boxing instructor, just being not even knowing how much I didn't know. And I went and I remember the first time I sparred with the guy and he hit me and it was so miserable. My adrenaline started going through the roof. My fight or flight kicked in. All I could think about was, I need to get out of here right now. And I might have to move out of New York because I'm never coming back here because that sucks so bad. That was nothing like I thought it was going to feel like the few fights you get into in a bar that are over in 0.3 seconds. This was a person whose job it is for the last 20 years to know how to punch somebody. And he just punched me and it sucked and I hate it. And I never want it to happen again. And I left. And I remember that whole week just being like, I'm thinking already of the excuses I was going to make next week to not come back. And I called the guy and I was like, yeah, man, not really feeling good today. My throat's a little, I'm not. And he was like, get your ass down here right now. And I was like, oh man. And I showed up and, I got beat up again. And, I was listening to the coach, and I remember I was boxing this guy that was really fast, but he didn't hit that hard. And my coach kept yelling, hands up, hands up, hands up, hands up. And I was like, I'm not putting my hands up. I'm not scared of this guy. He doesn't hit that hard. And the next thing I remembered was somebody slapping my face going, wake up. You okay? You okay? And I'm staring at the ceiling and I'm like, what happened? He goes, I told you, pick your hands up. He's really fast. It's the ones you don't see. And since that day, anytime I box, my hands were up. That was a lesson I never forgot. And that taught me a few things of like, you don't know what you don't know. And the basic things of like, be safe first, be protective first, and really keep like a calculated, keep your eyes open at all times, because it's the things that you don't see and the questions you don't ask and the things you don't look for that are going to hurt you. And I've seen that in business. It's getting a bad mentor that doesn't give you the right information, or people that leave certain things out and you don't have enough experience to even know to ask those questions. And then those sucker punch you. You didn't see them coming, and it kills your deal or it knocks your business out. And that's why I was so adamant about learning those systems, because I was like, there's things in here that I don't know, and I don't want to get blindsided by it. So what that taught me was to always, listen to the people that have done it 1,000 times. Don't think I know it all, because I could wind up on my ass. But more importantly, as I started continually getting beat up by that same guy for months, what would happen was, as I would get hit, I would slowly start to be able to train myself to go, okay, you got hit. That sucked, but stay calm, keep your eyes open, breathe, cover up so you don't get hit again. Like, just be defensive and work through this, and then find a way to get him back. And that I didn't realize transferred over. And then one day we were hanging out one day, and there was like a car, something happened. I forget what it was. It was like a car accident or somebody got hurt or something. And it triggered that same fight or flight kind of anxiety you get when you get hit. And I watched everybody around me freak out and panic and not know who to call or where to go. And I felt like everything slowed down. And I was able to go, all right, like, you sit here, you do this, I'll call this person, I'm going to go check on them. And it really taught me how I could stay calm in a stressful situation. And that really helped in business, because for people who are not doing real estate yet, there's days that there's fires everywhere, and there's people talking to you all crazy, and it gets very easy to let your emotions control you and say things you don't mean, or get careless and reckless and make mistakes that in the moment could hurt your reputation or your business in the long run. And I'm not perfect at it, but I've gotten a lot better at using that same skill of being able to sit back and control my emotions and try and stay calm in business. And, now on the jiu-jitsu side of that, I think that also translates into when you're underneath somebody and they're trying to choke you, or they're just, they're on top of you, they're hitting you, whatever it is, it teaches you that you take a breath and you try and find a way out. Because it's very easy to go, all right, there's 3 minutes left in this round. I'm losing. I'm trying to get up. It's not working. I'm going to tap out and I'm going to quit. But now you have to live with that tap. And that guy's always going to know, like, I didn't even really have him in anything. He didn't even really have it in him to fight out of that. Whereas when you sit there and you go, okay, I'm uncomfortable, I don't feel good right here, but I'm going to take everything I have inside me and I'm going to find every exhaustible option and resource to get myself out of this bad position and improve my position just a little bit, then a little bit more, then a little bit more, then a little bit more, and find a way to get on top or take his back or win this match. That stuff makes a huge, huge difference.
Yeah.
Oh, can you hold on 1 second? I'm sorry. I got somebody banging on my door. I don't know why.
Well, you go answer the door and I'm going to talk. I hope you can hear me still on the other side. What you were just talking about, man, that little incremental bit is what I've been focusing on lately, because I just started to realize, I've known it forever, but it started to become so much more important to keep it in the front of my mind, that it's almost never like it is in the movies, to where you get discovered and you have a big, huge explosion of exposure, or an explosion of money that just comes in all at one time. It's so rare that happens. It happens in life, but it's so rare that it happens. More often it's like those little daily, and then eventually those make the bigger things happen. But really, that's not your life. That big, huge thing that happens is not our life. It's our daily habits of what we do every single day and how we feel about it. Because really, we could be doing amazing things every day, getting massages and eating expensive fruits and only the rarest of peacock meat or whatever, most expensive, smelling diamonds all day or whatever, ridiculous things we could think of that are expensive. And if we feel terrible about it, what does it really matter?
No, man, I think you nailed that. I've always said like the small daily decisions are what make those things up, and again, going back to the MMA stuff, my buddy, Aljamain Sterling, he's literally the bantamweight UFC champion. And when he was coming up, he always had a shirt on that said, "It's what I do when no one's watching." Yeah. And I always love that. And I always use that for my real estate students. And I would tell them, like, when you see him fighting on a pay-per-view, you think it's just about whatever you're seeing that day. What you don't realize is for him to get to that, it was every round, every run, every mile, every punch, every choice he made along the way is what added up to the things that got him there. Like, it's never the big stuff. It's always those little small things in your daily decisions. Because really, like, where your life is now, no matter where it is, good, bad, wherever you are today, is a result of the decisions you have made in the past.
Yeah.
And whether they're your fault or not, whether they were intentional or even realize you were making a decision, those decisions monumentally added up to put you exactly where you are for the better or for the worse. And when I talk to people and they don't want to change things, but they want a different result, I'm like, look at the recipe for your life. That was the recipe that literally baked you to who you are and where you are right now. And if you think you're going to continue the same exact recipe and get a different result, it's literally the definition of insanity. But people don't want to change, but they want a different result. And I'm not saying it's easy to change, but that's why I think a lot of the times the people that I talk to, when you hear a lot of success stories, like, I hurt my hand, I couldn't work anymore. I got a terminal disease that I had to change my diet and start eating vegan. People wait until the pain is so great or the pressure has become a place that they're to a point of no return. And I feel like they get in life to a place that they only make changes when they're being reactive to something tragic that happened rather than being proactive when it would have been an easier choice. And I try and remember that every day. And it's hard, but it's like you said, you don't have to change your whole life today. You change one thing, you get up a half hour earlier, you walk a half a mile, you do 20 push-ups, you have one less piece of cake, you have one extra piece of fruit. And like that stuff starts to compound over time. You don't just wake up and become a millionaire or wake up and become a professional athlete or go wake up and run a marathon. You started by taking some steps and walking and jogging and running. And then you see that progress with the daily consistency. So, I mean, I think that's the most important thing out of everything is just creating good daily habits to build towards your goal.
Can you share with us some of your secret sauce of your daily habits of what your day's like, what you do? We talked about Calendly and blocking out. Can you talk about like time blocking, like you were talking about?
Yeah. So I come and go on this. So when I do it, it helps me huge. And then sometimes I get away from it a little bit, but I have a huge whiteboard right outside my kitchen. And what I try to do is start it at about 5 a.m. and run it till about 8 o'clock at night. And then what I'll do is the night before, one of my mentors taught me, if you have more than 3 priorities, you have no priorities.
Yeah.
So I'll take the 3 main things that I have to make sure no matter what, those get done. And I'll pencil those in, preferably early in the day. Now, an asterisk on that is normally what I try and do is those first hours when I get up between like 5, 6, 7, around there, I am trying to do exercise. So, prior to COVID, when I was trading more, that was jiu-jitsu time almost every day. Wake up early, go meet my guy down there, get beat up for a little bit, start the day off right. But if I can get 10 pages of reading in and I can get a little bit of quiet time and then some exercise in, that's always going to be the priority. I will switch that sometimes if I feel like I have some big things I need to knock out for the day. And I know if I go run or work out for the next 2 hours, I'm going to have anxiety because those things did not get started. So a huge prerequisite to that is taking the things that you have to do the next day and writing them down on that board or on a piece of paper before I go to bed. Because if I don't do that, like if I'm starting to get tired, I'll immediately take that book out and I'll go, okay, here's the things that I need to finish. And I'll put them on the board. And I can't tell you the difference in how much better I sleep and relax and can shut my brain off versus if I don't, I'm thinking about it, I'm thinking about it, I'm thinking about it. But I know if when I get up, I can look at that paper, look at the board, I can attack it that day. So I'll try and put the 3 major things in there and I'll try and schedule it realistically and then just put some other little tasks in there. And what that really does is even though it doesn't always follow my exact outline for the day from 5 to 8, I will get the 3 big things done in there. And then it'll help me look at, okay, this took 20 minutes and I thought it was going to take an hour. And this took an hour and I thought it was going to be 20 minutes. And it starts to let you really get a grip for like how to really prioritize your time and know how much things are going to take. And then you also start to see when you time block, that you'll have all this dead time, 15 minutes here, 20 minutes here, 15 minutes here, 20 minutes here. And I was spending a lot of time, if I didn't write down those time blocks, of being like, well, what do I do now? And I was wasting hours a day versus the 15, 20-minute pockets. I'm literally putting things in there now of like, check the Facebook posts, write back texts, take 20 emails off of a Facebook group and send them like a something for whatever, take 20 minutes and start to edit this week's podcast. You're not doing it the last minute. And you start to be a lot more efficient with some of like the downtime in the day that you didn't realize you were just wasting.
Man, that's really good. What
It's
are
all stuff I steal from people smarter than me that I talk to, man. You know, none of it's my original ideas.
yeah. Yeah, I'm getting that now too, where I'm having these, gaps in there, and I'm filling them in just with. So I do in the morning. I do tons of consuming content, and nothing social, just videos and reading. And so that's been my habit. That's really been juiced up my mind for years, and I haven't been exercising for a while. So that's one of the things I'm starting to do, even just getting up out of the office in the daytime. And we've been just going to the beach and getting barely a little tiny bit of sun. But we've been like on the, the grind mentality and the staying in it and just hours and hours and hours and hours and hours a day. Can you talk about I'm guessing you had a period like that, and then you've kind of moved into a period where it's more organized and you have some more time where you can actually let the mind relax. Can you talk about that? Because that's one of the things I'm talking about, the challenges I'm going through, hoping that somebody else out there in the world, can take something from it too. Because I've been finding like I really have to concentrate. I work so hard to get like in it, man, like where it's just what I'm about and it's what I do all the time. I think about it all the time. And now it's like I almost painted myself in the corner where it's like, okay, well, now we've achieved this certain levels of success and, amounts of income that make certain things more comfortable and easy and less stressful. So what did you do when you moved from that kind of grind into slowing it down and letting the mind relax and then learning how to enjoy yourself? Did you go through that? And how did you go through it?
Man, I think I'm still going through it. There's, because somebody told me there was a great saying. He said, "There's at every level there's another devil," and I feel like that's kind of what happens. Is like the stuff that you feel like you have, and you go to the next thing, and there becomes a whole nother set of things. And the more I talk to people that are experts and stuff, you talk to a guy who's a social media expert, and then you talk to a guy who's just a TikTok expert, and you realize how much time and energy and thing there is to learn every single one of these different pieces, and it starts to get overwhelming. So I'm always trying to learn stuff. So I have a tendency to overbuy courses and to over join groups and things like that. And then there's weeks of just recordings and stuff. So I'll start to watch them, and then that'll get my brain going, man, I got to learn all about the construction here. I got to learn about that. So it's a little bit of feast or famine, because there's days that there's not a lot to do. And I go, okay, I got all my calls out. I sent all my deals out. There's nothing really pressing. And then there's other times where like something falls out, or something's going on with the loan, or a buyer ghosts on you, or, a seller's deal isn't working, so it kind of comes and goes. And I think that's where it's become more of me trying to remember that if I'm consistent every day and I just keep doing these basic things every day, it won't pile up to an overwhelming place. And if I'm on top of stuff and I know that I've maximized each of my days, on the days that I'm taking the total day off, there's a lot less stress, because I know that I've put the work in that week to stay on top of stuff. Whereas I know if I watch Netflix, or I slacked off, or I had a bad day and I slept in or something like that, and then the work starts to pile up, and then tomorrow I plan on going to the beach all day or spending the whole day at the pool, I don't get to enjoy it as much, because my mind doesn't shut off, because I didn't put the work in prior. So, whether I got the result or not that I wanted, as long as I know I'm doing all the things that I need to do to stay on top of stuff, and I've done everything in my power to make it a productive day and tie up all my loose ends, that helps me relax, and that helps me kind of chill out a little bit. So, and again, even when I do that kind of stuff, it's rare that I'm not doing something, especially like Hawaii, man. When I'm out in Hawaii, I thrive out there, because I can get up at 2 a.m. and, East Coast time, it's, who knows? So by the time it's 9 a.m., I've gotten a full work day. And so I love when I need to, like, getting up early and getting some of those things ahead of time. So that way now, at least by the time 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock comes around, if I started my day at 5 a.m., I got a significant amount of stuff done that now if I want to sit at the pool or sit at the beach from 10 to 6, that's okay because I've already put the time and the work into there. So, and I'll just double time it if I know I have a trip or something coming up. But with being in the business that we are, unfortunately, there's days that you're trying to relax and unplug and somebody calls you with a fire. So another part of what I've learned is more and more I'm using extra lines on my phone, like Sideline or Line 2 or Google Voice or things like that. And I'm making sure that when I'm somewhere that I want to be engaged with the people that I'm with, because they notice when your mind's not there.
Yeah.
And it's almost like, I was going to go visit my parents a couple of weeks ago in New York. And I just had too much work stuff going on. And I was like, I'm going to go back there and I'm not going to be fun to be around and I'm not going to be engaged. So what's the point of going? Let me get these things done and go there when I can actually focus and give them the time that they deserve, that I can pay attention to them. So doing things like shutting those lines off while I'm doing something and not checking my email is night and day, because it's amazing how it becomes a habit. You pick it up and I'll open Facebook and I'll be like, why did I just do that? I didn't even, and I'll put it down. So I'm trying to be very good about noticing impulses that I was not controlling and making sure that I'm not doing things like checking work texts, checking work emails, and not having that flow into my personal email or my personal phone number, because then I might be looking at pictures of dogs and my property manager calls with an emergency and you can't help but see it. And now you're back in work mode and you're not enjoying yourself. So I think setting boundaries and parameters for not allowing people to bomb you with work stuff morning, noon, and night is a huge lesson for being able to enjoy your downtime and take your day off and not be, because then you never really relax. You never really get to reset. It never goes away. And that's where you get burned out. So that would be the biggest thing for me, is really just learning how to set boundaries and making sure I'm separating stuff, that when I'm at work, I'm focusing on the work stuff. And when I'm not, I'm focusing on the personal stuff that I'm trying to do and the people that I'm with.
Yeah, I keep talking about, and it's coming back around again, that it's really about the personal development that even allows you to be able to give the good service and give the good quality of what you do. Alex Hormozy talks about it. Are you familiar with him at all? You seen his videos?
No.
Check him out sometime. Alex Hormozy, he's great. It's not in real estate at all. He talks about online retail sales and things like that, recurring income business. So he talks about, I got to talking about him too much. I forgot what his point was. But do you remember where we were talking?
You were talking about mindset and just the stuff that he puts out there. I was talking about being present with the people in your life and enjoying the time and separating the business from the work.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, anyway, it's discipline is freedom. That's Jocko, right? Back into your world. So what you were talking about, the discipline is having it all taken care of and done so that you have the freedom of the mind to relax. I've kind of heard that people talk about that, but hearing you say it, I was like, oh, that's it. It kind of locked in. I don't know if you have this too, where you hear so much and finally, like, it'll, you'll hear certain people say it different ways and you go, oh, that's what it means. And that's how it really applies to me.
Yeah. My friend gave me a great analogy. He's a jiu-jitsu guy out of wherever in California, whatever, it doesn't matter, but he's Costa Mesa, California. So he had a new baby. And I remember I was asking him, I was like, man, how's the baby doing? He's like, she's like an iPhone. He goes, she goes to bed at night and it's like shutting the phone off. And it's like she gets an update. And then the next morning she wakes up and she's got these new features and these new things she's doing. And I realized like that is an important thing, that us as business owners, sometimes you're all clogged up and there's all these things and you can't see it for what it is. And if you don't give yourself some time to shut down your battery and recharge, you don't get to get all the bugs out and update your system with all the new cool things and really have a fresh, clear perspective on it. And I think too much of us get into that cliche because we see the people on Instagram that are saying like no sleep, grind, 15-hour days and all that kind of stuff. And that's cool. And it is good to be obsessive about stuff. And it is good to work hard and it's good to push towards your goals. But I think if that's all you do, that's why there's a huge turnover and quit rate with entrepreneurs and real estate investors, because they just go. And they don't consider that you can't run on full speed all the time. Nothing can, not a machine. Your car is going to run out of gas. The plane's going to crash. Things are going to burn out. So I don't think that there's enough out there that people share about having to relax and enjoy yourself and how that helps. Because, even I was having a conversation today with one of my jiu-jitsu buddies and I was like, man, as soon as like, if I'm having a tough day and I'm going like, I can't go to jiu-jitsu today because there's all these problems and I don't really know what to do or how to handle them and it's stressing me out, I go to jujitsu, and what I love about it, which everybody has to find their thing, whether it's surfing or reading or whatever, but it forces me to be engaged. I can't check my phone because I have to be aware of what's happening every single second of every single round. So even though you think you're going to go in and you can't concentrate, an hour goes by and then you go, holy crap. Like I didn't even think about that deal or that loan or that contract that didn't show up for the last hour. And I feel great now. And I can't believe I didn't see this before, but all I have to do is X, Y, and Z, you know, and it really helps just get a fresh perspective. But if I had not shut that off, that part of my brain for an hour and given it a chance to calm down and cool off and reload, I wouldn't have had some of the epiphanies and some of the breakthroughs that I've had. So, you know, it sounds again cliche, but taking a step back sometimes to allow yourself to take 2 steps forward is a huge piece of longevity in this business.
For sure. We've been doing Newcom. Have you heard about that?
Newcom, no, is it like a meditation thing?
It is. It's but it's kind of a cheat. It was made by a neuroscientist, Dr. Crawley, I think in the 70s. It's been around for a long time. It was to treat veterans with PTSD and comorbidities of addiction. And so it's a really strong, powerful, all it is music to listen to, but then it has neuro programming that helps relax the parasympathetic nervous system to allow basically everything you were just talking about for sleep. Everything that happens in sleep and rest and relaxation, it uses advanced math and physics to make your mind do that and slow down your brain waves. And then they just came out with another one that you might like. I love it. I use it every single day right before I do this. And so it's become part of my day in the morning, and it fits right in perfect to be right before I record with somebody and talk to somebody, and it takes the brain waves up.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'll check that out. I'm sure.
Yeah, you're gonna love it.
Cool.
And so that's some of the secret sauce I talk about. I use a ton of cheats because I think, to tell you the truth, I went through a tough time, and I just was letting it beat me up forever. Like it felt like forever for me that I was just letting it keep me down, and I was making tons of excuses for years. And I had reached really high levels of success already, and I had a, what do they call it, a financial reversal, and so I just let it keep me down for quite a while. And so whenever I came back, I was like, I just got all these just crap habits, like thoughts and mind loops and just thought loops and negative self-talk and all the stuff and so I just started replacing it with all kinds of good stuff like New Calm. I drink this stuff. Actually, I just had one, Magic Mind, just taking out just all kinds of any bad, any alcohol, cigarettes, anything. And I'm talking about for anybody, any of these things that are in your life, pornography, going to bars, social media addiction, whatever it is that's like taking time, taking energy. If it's taking time and you look at it, and especially if you're not happy about it or proud about it, like anything that you're not proud of, you can just replace it with something you are proud of. And that's been a humongous change for me, is I just started looking and going, man, I'm not proud. I don't want my mom to know this. I don't want my mom to know I do that. And so I would just replace it and say, okay, here's something I want my mom and my grandma and all the people in my life that I know, love, and respect. And I'm happy about them knowing about this. And so the more I kept shoving that stuff into my life, all the other things that I wasn't proud of or happy of, or thoughts and mentalities, habits, whatever, they just get shoved out because there's no place for them if you just keep shoving more good stuff in. Anyway, that's what I wound up doing.
That's such great advice. I do love that. Just, keeping the clean energy coming in. And I like the gauge of like, would I be okay if my mom knew about this? That's
awesome. Yeah. Well, that was a big one. And I heard a, I don't remember who now, but it was a business mentor that was talking about, actually it was Mike Tyson. He goes, all the greatest conquerors were afraid of their mother. And so he was talking about, how in personality, you can take on the spirit of, like a lot of CEOs will take on the spirit of like a grandma or a mother or something like that. And it was mainly more of a thought exercise. And so I was thinking about it, and I was like, oh, well, I can build my confidence, because I'm going to feel really confident if I know that everything I'm doing, I'm proud of enough that I would be happy to have my mom sitting there watching it. And it was a hook that worked for me that got to where I could go, hey man, I know that I'm helping people. I know my mom would love to see me do this. So I feel great about it. And it's just a ton of confidence in it. Yeah.
Yeah, man, I think that that's awesome. I'm going to use that.
Yeah, please do. Tell tell me what you do with, because you were talking about you have real estate students.
I did. Yeah, I haven't been doing that anymore just because it takes up a lot of time, and kind of the stuff you were talking about. It reminds me of the whole, the gas mask, the gas mask on the plane, the oxygen mask on the plane.
Yeah.
You have to put yourself on first before you can help other people. So
Oh yeah.
I wound up taking time away from my own business, and you have to kind of get yourself set up. And I'm a big believer that if I can't put myself 100% into it and bring my A game to it, like the podcast says, that I really try not to. So what I recently did was started a Facebook group. And when people message me or ask me if I'll mentor them, I basically just say, hey, if you have questions, put them in the Facebook group and I'll look for it. And if you have something, I'll either do a podcast episode on it, or I'll make a video and I'll post it in the group, because I'm sure everybody can benefit from it. And most people don't do it. They, well, I want you to mentor me. I go, well, yeah, well, what do you want? Well, I have questions and I need help with X, Y, and Z. I'm like, great. Put those exact questions in the group and I will give you my answers to them. And the most of them don't. So there'll be a time I do it again, but for the time being, I just, focusing on growing my own business and getting my own stuff going and restructuring. I thought it was important to do that. So
now you were talking, like I said, we talked about a lot at the very beginning when you were talking about specifically what you do. But I want you to take a minute and talk about specifically what you do, so that people, like if there's people that want to contact you, and your website and what all is going on your website and what you can do for people.
Sure. I appreciate that, man. Sure. So obviously I have the podcast that I've always said from day one, the only cool thing about me is the people that I know. And I have a lot of really great people on that give such great advice. Like I just had Adam Whitney on. He works with Bill Allen. He's a U.S. Marine. Guy's a ninja marketer and such a good dude. So people like that just coming in. So if you're looking for information or tips on any of the stuff like we're talking about, great time management stuff, mindset stuff, real estate tips, entrepreneurial stuff, fun fight stuff, definitely check out my podcast. My website's nicknicknick.com. But if you go on nicknicknick.com/links, it's got all of my social media that you can click on, and it's got everywhere that you can check out and subscribe to the podcast, which is pretty much everywhere. And then we also have a checklist, nicknicknick.com/biggerpockets. If you go on that, we have a checklist that we share for ways you can bring more value to your buyers. If you're going to do real estate wholesaling, or you're a broker or an agent, it's just some cool things that we do extra. And then, as far as what I do right now, I think the best way I could help people is if there's people out there that are looking for small to medium, like, under $1 million, maybe a little bit more, first, second step, multifamily or mobile home park type of things. We're coming across a lot of those that are in almost residential price points, but they're good, solid cap rates and good CB areas. So if you're looking to maybe transition up from single family to commercial, or you're looking to get something that's like a manageable commercial deal, definitely contact me. I can help you find something. And I assist with the loans, and I assist with the due diligence and putting the management in place and getting the leases and doing the walkthroughs. And, we assist huge with all the ways to due diligence and make people who might think things are scary feel a little bit better as we walk them through and kind of help them analyze the deal and find out if it's a good fit for them. So but that's pretty much it. And then, if anybody wants to reach me,
that last part, you're like an operator, but you're talking about not syndicating.
Syndicating.
Yeah. Okay. So it's like a syndication. It sounds like, correct me if I'm wrong, you have all the benefits of a syndication because you're a full-on operator, track record operator, and the same as you're going to get with a syndication. And I'm guessing the returns are similar.
Well, the difference from the syndication would be I only step in and help through closing. So once you buy that property and you take it over, I'm out of that deal and now it's yours. So it's like assisted wholesaling. So I would say, for instance, people go, hey, I get a lot of calls of people in California, people in Texas, that they go, look, my properties don't really cash flow anymore, but they've appreciated so much. And I want to pull this money out and reinvest in something. I don't really have the time to figure out how to dive into markets and do all these things, or I'm scared. Like, how can I know it's a good deal? And then what I'll do is I'll take a deal, I'll do a full analysis of it. I'll write it up. I'll make a video of it, talking through all the things that make it a good deal, all the things you might want to worry about, all the things that might benefit you down the line, all the things you might not like, the punch you don't see coming. These are the things you might want to look out for, or the things you should be asking. And then if this looks like it's a go, here's how we can take the next step. And now if you want me to, I can help you with market research to show you why this is a strong market. I can help line up 3 contractors and interview them and then tell you, here's 3, you choose 1. Here's 3 property managers I screened, found, and interviewed. You choose 1. Here's, all the walkthrough videos. Here's what I see as problems that you need to address. Here's the scope of work. If you need help with insurance, here's the insurance brokers that I use. Here's the policies that I would recommend, and just kind of stuff like that of figuring out like, what would your strategies be? Here's what I would do if I were you, and not really telling them what to do, but giving multiple options and like a top 3 for each of them. And then saying, okay, this is yours. If you want to use these people and you want this deal, everything is set up for you. Now you make your own choice. And then generally I worked my feet into that deal. So like I said, that's where the reverse engineering comes in, is if I know they want, like an 8 cap or an 8.5 cap or a 13% cash on cash, I'll make sure that whatever I've put in for myself is included in that, and it's still getting them a return that they want. So the deal makes sense for them. It gets them everything that they want. And then, I'm taken care of at the closing. So if I don't close and they don't buy the deal, I don't get anything. It's not costing them any money. And I feel like that forces me to perform. And, obviously I have to have some faith in that they will too. So it's been cool, kind of working with people and getting to know them and hearing their stories and just helping them get involved in some properties, which has been it's been nice, and it helps me learn too, because there's new things that pop up all the time. It keeps me sharp, getting in and helping with all the due diligence on stuff that maybe I normally wouldn't have done, or people or markets I wouldn't have looked at. And then you start to say, hey, that was a good deal and a good market and a good return. I'm going to find my own stuff there too now.
I would call you a CIO for hire.
I like that. I've been called worse.
Yeah, that's how I would describe it. That sounds like you come in, like you said, you line out the whole deal like a CIO would, but instead of staying with the deal like it being, a fund, and you stay with the deal and be the operator, you basically line it all up and let them take it over. Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, that's a great deal. And so do you secure your side with the buyer? So this is going to be, they're the buyer, but you secure your side with them, or are you able to take like a position in the property?
People have offered that. There's a couple of deals, it kind of depends on where the deal is, what the deal is. The ones that they've offered me that, it just, I haven't really had the time or the focus to do it, but there are ones that say, hey, will you stay on the deal and help me with the stabilization, or help me for the first 6 months, and in return, I'll give you, a 10% equity stake or something like that. And there's definitely deals that I would do that with, but it has to not only be the right deal, it has to be the right person, because I don't want to get in with somebody who's just going to like run the thing into the ground and expect me to come dig it out. That I've done that. That's not fun. And it has to make sense for what I have going on. So as long as I have the time to give it the proper attention, then that's definitely something I would entertain.
How do they run it into the ground?
I'll give you an example of one of the deals that I sold maybe a year ago now. I gave like a full email breakdown of like, hey man, here's every single thing that could go wrong. Here's the things that you could do that are going to cause these things to go wrong. If these things happen, like here's how you avoid doing these things. And now if they do happen, here's backups and here's people you call and all these things. And then you find out like later down the line, like the guy had a loan on there to stabilize the property and just like never fixed the heat. And then the tenant stopped paying because he wouldn't fix the heating system because it was like $6,000 or whatever. But it's like, yeah, but you got a construction loan and that was there to take care of that. You know what I mean? So like they don't, there's less that can happen on the residential side, but on the commercial side, I mean, if you start not hiring the right people and you're not on top of those deals, especially when you're doing some sort of value add, and now, the manager's putting in crappy tenants or the tenants are trashing the properties and, they think that you're an out-of-state owner, so they can do whatever they want. It gets out of hand really fast and then stuff starts breaking. And then when stuff starts breaking, it takes the quality of life of the tenant there down. So now they don't respect the owner. They don't respect the building. Now they're trashing their place. Now they're trashing their building. Now they're trashing, there's garbage everywhere. Now people are moving out. And now when the people move out or get evicted, nobody else wants to move back in there because now you need another 20 grand to fix all the holes in the walls and the stuff they threw out the window. And, that slippery slope, I tell everybody that on the residential side, there's people that lose 20, 30, 40 grand every day. You post somebody who goes, man, I took a hit on this property, contractor screwed me, or I made a mistake, or the person trashed the house. Now you have a 20-unit building. That's that problem that you could have made on a single family home times 20. So, I mean, that's where literally like within 6 months you go, this became a $400,000 mistake. I can't come back from that. So it's more important than ever to understand that when you take over a building, short of something turnkey, which some people, they just want turnkey, just give me something, I'll take a lesser return, but I don't want the headaches. But if you're doing some sort of value add or some sort of stabilization where you have to kick some people out, put some new people in and renovate that building, and you're not setting the expectation immediately that first couple of days when you take that property over of what you're expecting to be done, what the communication should be, they're going to test you right off the bat and you've already lost control and it's going to be very hard to get back. So, I mean, my advice more than ever is keep that leash super tight. Like, so, like one of the things I teach them to do, or I tell them to do that I do is, hey, the manager, the contractor is going to be there, whatever hours they're supposed to be there. I need to get FaceTime when they go in with a quick talk. It just takes 2 minutes. Tell me what's getting done today. And then when they leave, FaceTime me again and show me you did that. If you go 2 or 3 days and they did not do that for you, they're out. I'm sending somebody in to go change the locks and I'm getting somebody else back in there. And those little things will keep you from having something that could have been a small problem and a 1 week delay turning into something that's a 6-figure problem that you can't come back from. Is just staying on top of it. But people will call me 3 months later and go, I didn't really do anything since you sold me the property. Can you help me? And I'm like, can I undo like the giant hole you dug? No, like
right.
It doesn't work like that, So that's just an example of it. But yeah, I mean, in a multifamily, things get exponentially worse because there's so many more units.
See, I talk about that constantly, because I see it in the economy here. See, I focus on just here. I don't, spread out. And I know that's real popular to invest all over. And I just really focus on my one. That's my style, what I do. And so I see properties getting sold down the value chain. So what I talk about is so somebody will buy it, and the same thing you just talked about. They'll, get a loan to fix some part of it. And then, they don't spend the loan on that part. I don't know, maybe they fixed the car, or, maybe they were sick and they had to pay for a hospital or whatever it is. They don't pay for it like they were supposed to. And now the property is worth less. You can't get a good tenant in there. And so they just keep renting down. And so what we have here is we have old hotels, and we have a real strict permitting process here. And so if they're close to the water, it takes an extra long time. If they're older, it takes extra long time. And so instead of fixing it up, it gets way too expensive for the developers. So they'll just rent down, then the place degrades, then they sell down. And then the next guy buys it and they can't get it permitted to get fixed up. So they sell down. And it's just happening. Yeah. And I'm seeing it tremendously. So what happens with, say, somebody you wholesaled a property, and just that same scenario we just talked about, they come back and they didn't take care of something that winds up being a huge bill. Tell us one of those stories. What happens after?
Well, I like to say that I tell them sorry, but I don't do that because I've had a lot of really bad mentors, and I've had people that completely sold me a bill of goods on properties before I really know how to analyze them and wind up in a really bad spot. So I have a soft spot for people, even when it's their own fault, that I will still try and help. So like that exact thing happened, that it was like, hey, can you help me sell it? And then what I did was I went and I started using some of my buyers list and some of the contacts I had in these areas to say, hey, you were maybe a backup buyer when I was selling it, or I know A, B, and C, you're looking for properties there. Would you be interested now in taking this over? And then I worked with the guy who owned the property of like, hey, here's a couple of different situations or ways like you can hold some seller financing, they can get it back up, and just kind of going over all the ins and outs. And so I sent him about 100 qualified buyers that were all interested. And I looked over all the docs and stuff like that and the offers that the people put in. And then, he didn't call them. And so everybody starts writing back. And I was like, it's not my property. I'm just doing this to help. If you want to move forward with this, here's the guy's information. And then for like weeks and weeks, they were like, I called, I texted, I emailed, he never answered back. And then like 4 or 5 months later, it was, hey, can you help me with this again? And I was like, come on, man. Like things go on in people's lives, you know what I mean? So I try not to judge. And he had something that was going on personally that he wasn't able to pay attention to it. And he was like, before I thought I was going to be in a position that I still wanted to stay on. He's like, now I've decided that what's going on in my personal life, I am committed to selling now. I won't waffle, and then he helped get out of that. So, I try and help, just listen and brainstorm and point out like, hey, not to kick you when you're down, but here's the things that you shouldn't have done. Here's the things we talked about, for the next one. And this is how we're going to salvage this one. But it's important for you that even though this might not have gone as you planned, you have to take the lessons that you learned from this into your next thing, because it's like we were talking about. I'm not going to get beat up like that again. Same MMA things. I'm going to go in tomorrow, but it's not going to be because I didn't know how to communicate with the property manager. It's not going to be because I didn't get a proper scope of work or communication line with the contractor every day. I'm not going to take those beatings. I might get beat up some other way, but this is going to help me keep flattening the curve of the surprises and things that pop up on there. So I always do try and help for the most part when I can. Like the best I can. And luckily, that doesn't happen that often, but generally, when somebody does that, they know that they didn't do their part. And I'm willing to help somebody if they have accountability, if they're just pointing fingers that, hey, this was not my fault, and da 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 da. It's like, no, no, no. We had the whole video that you watched where I said at the end, this is your responsibility. You need to verify all this stuff. You need to double, triple check. Like, this is my information, but you need to make your own decision. You're a big boy or girl, so do due diligence, consult your attorney, consult your mentor, call your own people, like run this by everybody in your life you possibly can before you commit to this. And, I think for the most part, I'm pretty clear about that, and they do that. So there's not a lot of blowback. Sometimes we have to renegotiate a little bit before closing, because during this, sometimes there's 30, 60 days of due diligence. And in that time, there's transition, there's turnover, you find out, something happened, but generally you can make it work. That's the nice part about commercial, is on the residential side, some of those surprises that pop up during due diligence, there's no deal anymore. Whereas on the commercial side, there's a bigger spread. So you have a little bit more flexibility on ways you can take a bump here or there and adjust it and still have a good deal for everybody.
Well, most people that are getting into commercial, they know they're going to need to do something to a property anyway.
Yeah, you would think so. It's an interesting mindset though. Like even on the mobile home parks, I get a lot of people that are going, well, I don't want to take a mobile home park over that has park owned units because now I'm responsible for tenants and repairs. I was like, yeah, but when you called me to see if I could find you an apartment building. Like you were going to have tenants. You were going to,
yeah.
You're saying like, I don't want anything to do with that. But the whole first call was that was what you were signing up for. Now, all of a sudden that's a huge problem because you heard somebody else say that that's a problem. Like that's what you're getting paid for, is to solve problems. And, I was talking to Chris Root about that, and he brought that up, and I think about it daily. Billy Alvarez says a lot too. He's a great guy. If you ever need a good guest, that guy's such a great interview. But he always talks about like the reason you get paid so well as a real estate investor is because you signed up to fix problems all day. So when you're going, oh man, all day long, I'm getting emails and phone calls and text messages about problems, you should be like, hell yes, this is money. This is what I signed up for. This is why I'm here. And he's like, I never understood the people that become entrepreneurs and they go, man, like all I got is problems all day. It's like, if you didn't have those problems, you wouldn't have those opportunities. So I try and really change my perspective on that and look at it as like, yes, these are good problems to have because this is what creates an opportunity. If it wasn't for bad operators of multifamily properties, we would never be able to buy value adds. They just
that's great. I like that a lot. If it wasn't for those folks out there messing it up, we wouldn't be able to come in and swoop the deals.
Exactly.
Yeah, and we have that some over here a little bit too.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I imagine everybody. I'm sure people invest all the time. Oh, it's Hawaii. It's got to be great. No matter what you do to it.
I am like the probably 50-year current incarnation of the guy doing that. Now, the area that I sell land in is it's got a long history. There was a guy, Harry McKee, and some of these maps. That sign is from his office. That sign mine. Nice. And from way out there, whenever it was nothing but literally a gravel highway for hours and hours and hours to get out there. And he was selling land for $100 down and $20 a month. And he was, this is back in the day. And so he was selling them like over the mail. And so he would get like a letter from somebody asking questions. And so I get the same thing. I get emails and, people write in through the website and ask questions. I call them up, I make a video, same sort of thing like you're talking about, and get them set up with a piece of land. He would go, I have a map over here from 1962 from the U.S. Geological Survey of infrared pictures of the cold water springs of the Big Island of Hawaii, which is a big thing here. And it's really important. And, if you were looking at rainfall and looking at things. So he was writing letters to the U.S. Geological Survey and getting huge maps and then mailing them out to people and then taking checks for $100 down and $20 a month. And that's how he was selling land. So, I mean, I'm just doing the same thing. I just have a website, we use email, and it's the same thing. And I actually rent his old office, which was his house. He actually started a foundation. So what I'm getting back to is he raised the prices of the land there, just like I'm doing still. We're still raising the prices by allowing people to be able to afford it. And so he was able to start a foundation with the profits that he made. So there's now a foundation in his name that gives scholarships to kids in that area to go to college.
That's awesome.
because he set the price high. So there's a virtuous price there's a virtuous cycle to the price going higher. That's what I wanted to talk about for Alex Hormozy, is that there's a virtuous cycle to the price being high, and the opposite of that is selling the asset down, like taking a multifamily, not doing, deferring the maintenance and then selling it down for cheaper to somebody else. Is the opposite of that is charging a high price, being able to have so much money that you have to give a good value for it. So you're giving a really, really good product. And then the great thing I'm learning from that is I get rid of most of our marketing by doing that. Like, we have hardly any marketing because it's getting such word of mouth going because we're making the value so much higher than what the price is.
That's awesome. I love that.
We got I don't want to say lucky, but we like tried it, and we tried a whole bunch of different stuff. We moved our prices around a lot. I'm kind of getting off on a tangent, but it's cool because we moved our prices around to find what works in that market. And once we found it, like, everything just took off because it had to do with getting involved with the people and understanding what was going on in their lives. And I know a lot of people don't want to do that. It's real popular to get be the removed investor and the invisible investor, which is cool. It's totally a different way. I don't think what we do would work most anywhere else, but it works really, really well for us. And there might be parts people can take from it. Is we get involved with the people and figured out where we could set the price and make them successful. And so we started to, Bezos talks about this all the time, about being obsessed with the customer and what they want and making their lives better. And so I can't remember if we were talking about it a minute ago, but a lot of that limiting belief and stuff to get out of the head comes from seeing other people's success as ripping people off or stealing from them or cheating them. And if we're constantly telling ourselves that story, then we don't feel good about being successful, and we don't feel good about taking our time off and relaxing, So it's a lot of the stories that we're telling ourselves daily, the daily habits of stories telling ourselves, becomes our reality of how we feel about ourselves.
Man, I think it's so crazy because the more successful people I talk to, the more they talk about how important the mindset is. Mm-hmm. And the more new investors I talk to, the more they go, I don't want to hear about that mindset crap. Don't waste my time with that. I just want to know, how do I come up with ARV? And I'm like, you can look that stuff online, man. You can get a calculator. You can jump on a YouTube video. If you think that that's all it is to be successful, you just don't have enough experience yet. So I can't get enough of that stuff. I mean, I agree there's a time and a place for it, but I looked at one of the things Uriah Faber said yesterday I thought was great is when he first started coming up, he was like, man, my thought process is that I can beat up everybody. He goes, I don't care how big they are. I don't care how good they are. He goes, I'm going to be the best fighter in the world. I am the best fighter in the world. Nobody can hurt me. He goes, and then I had to come to the point where I was going to go into the gym and prove that. He's like, and I went into the gym and I realized real quick, all right, I'm definitely not the best in the world. I definitely can't beat up anybody yet. He's like, but I will be. I just know now that I have to work my way up, and there's people in front of me that I'm going to have to learn from to get there. So I think a lot of other people, what they do, because I see it all the time, they walk into a gym. Oh, I've gotten into 100 street fights, or I've done X, Y, and Z, or I sold my own house once, and the realtor that bought me my house, he's going to make me rich. They have these really basic assumptions, and then they go in and they get humbled, and then you have a choice to go, this is really hard, but I'm excited for the challenge. I'm going to rise to the occasion. I'm going to go and I'm going to learn and I'm going to do it. Or they go, that seems like a lot of work. My ego just got bruised. I'm out. And most people don't. It's very similar to jiu-jitsu. The amount of people that quit their first year is unbelievable. The people who just don't come back 2 or 3 times. But once you make it to blue belt, the retention rate is way higher. Purple belt, way higher. Brown belt, way higher. Same thing with real estate, man. The people that quit before they get their first successful deal is huge. Everybody I talk to tried this at some point. But when you talk to the guys like the Adam Whitneys and the Corey Boatwrights and the Billy Alvaros, those guys aren't going to quit real estate ever because they're on deals hundreds of thousands. And, I think it's getting through that. But that comes from the mindset of you have to have that belief that you are going to be successful no matter what, and not psych yourself out that everybody knows things you don't know. Everybody's better than you. But I think, you also have to have a little bit of humbleness. And that's where I think things like where we met, like masterminds and being in rooms with guys like that and realizing hey, man, I'm okay at what I do, but I realize how much bigger this can be and how much more I have to learn. And that like you said, I think going full circle to how we started, it's never ending. There's always somebody bigger, and no matter where you get, you look and you see that there's another mountaintop and another peak that you're going, man, I didn't even know somebody was up there. How do I get there? And then it starts the whole thing over again,
Yeah.
So it's exciting.
Hey, I want to tell you a story about you that you probably don't know.
Oh boy.
And it'll probably make me look bad, but it'll make you look good. And it's one of the reasons I always remembered you and respected you.
I appreciate
And
that.
we were in Maui, and we were in Wailea, Maui. At do you remember the hotel? I don't remember which hotel.
It was a Sheraton or a Marriott, right?
Yeah, maybe it was the Marriott. But anyway, we were at a beautiful hotel. We're overlooking the ocean. They have this outdoor sitting area where we had set up to sit and talk for a while. And so we're having a discussion. And I don't know if you've had good and bad mentors and good and bad tools and all kinds of stuff that's in there. It's all in there. And like sometimes it pops out at different times. Like I had this one mentor specifically that relates to this story. And he was constantly about NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, working situations, social dynamics, and, kind of controlling the way that other people feel and affecting their neurology with different words and sentences and patterns of speech and getting people used to just different kinds of things. He was really into all that kind of stuff. So he's constantly feeding me this information. So tons of it's still in there, right? So that's the backup for part of this story. So we're sitting there in Wailea. We're on these beautiful couches. I can see it. It was beautiful. We got the gorgeous azure ocean out there. We get a nice little breeze, and we're just discussing, having a nice time. And we accidentally spoke at the same time. And you know how usually you stop and you wait. And one of these things he put in me is he would always have me testing people and checking out their responses. And so whenever we started to speak at the same time, we both kept speaking a little bit, and I just kept going over the whole sentence, and it kind of made you stop, and it kind of broke your frame for a second. And you were so warm and kind, and it showed through. It showed through like a warm kindness, and I was like, man, that's the guy I'm going to keep in touch with, and I always did. And I wanted to tell you that story because it also showed. I kind of debated whether to tell you that story because it makes me seem like a jerk because it is kind of a jerk thing to do, and it's like I said, it's in there somewhere from these kind of crazy mentors. But it was another like a display of comfortability to not have to prove, hey, I have to say what I have to say, and I have to be like dominant in this conversation or something like that. But I felt it. And whenever it happened, I was like, man, that is a really neat guy. And that's a really neat something that's not fake, that he couldn't have faked, And so I wanted to share that with you. I thought that was
I appreciate that. I try and always, as much as I can, make sure I'm present and I'm listening, and it's, my brain goes all over the place sometimes. So, sometimes it's harder than others, but I've talked to people, and it makes such a difference when you're talking to them and you can actually see that they're listening to you and they're in that conversation. They're not thinking of something else. Like it just clicks different, So I've noticed it when I talk to people and they're completely disengaged or they're just waiting for themselves to talk. And I know how that feels. So I always try and make sure I'm doing everything I can to like listen to the person talking and do more listening than talking, because that's really how I think people connect. And, it gets easy sometimes to ramble, but I always try and come from a place of, I wound up in this place with this person for a reason. Listen to what they're saying, because then you'll figure out like what the purpose of this meeting was. Because everything to me has a purpose. I'm a big believer in that there's no accident that you wind up in certain places in certain conversations. And if nothing else I've learned from the podcast is, man, everybody has such cool stories.
Mm-hmm.
Like everybody has cool stories and great experiences. And you can learn things from people and you can get inspired from people, stuff that they don't even think is important. You say it sometimes and it just is relatable to something you're going through. And, I think that's really awesome. Not to get too off topic with that, but like one of the reasons like that stuck out to me. I don't know if you've ever watched the movie or read the book, The 5 People You Meet in Heaven.
Yeah.
I love just
time though.
Yeah, it's me too. But I just, the premise of it, of like that, when they go there, they think it's going to be their dad, their mom, their brother, and their wife. And it's these 5 people that they barely know, that they interacted with, that they left some impression on. And I felt like that's what I always like, you never know. So I always try and just be like engaged and open and, just really attentive to the conversation and listen. So I appreciate that came through, for sure.
What you're doing is working. It's working well.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
I think
And
that's
that
as
was
good of
amazing.
a,
I think I just shared that picture today, right? Of that whole outdoor
yeah.
space by the, oh man, what an amazing spot. I remember Al Iaquinta, he had just fought in front of like 70,000 people in New Zealand. And then UFC flew him back to California to fly him back to Maui. So this dude was on a plane for like 30 something hours. And I remember I walked out and I met him and he was just sitting there by the pool holding a drink. And he was like, yeah, this super sucks. And it was like paradise, dude. And I was like, man, this place is like unbelievable, man. It's Maui, just Hawaii in general is my favorite place in the world. Every minute I was there, I was so happy. It's such a great place, man.
It's pretty great. It's pretty great. I'll teach you the one thing of the language that's one of the cool things about living here that bleeds into your kind of lifestyle is we call everybody auntie and uncle and grandpa and tutu and papa and people that we don't know. And you start to refer to, for example, somebody's crossing the street, and they're going slow and the light's green now. And it's time for me to drive, but I got an old lady crossing the street. If you say it that way, it has a certain impression in the mind. And the way we say it here, oh, auntie crossing the street. You don't say, oh, auntie crossing the street. You say, oh, auntie, take your time. And it's 2 seconds out of your day that sets your own frame. And so that's one of the wonderful things about living here. So whenever you come here and you experience the feelings and all that, that's one of the little logistical things that's happening is that the people here use language that's very kind to the other people around them. Oh, cousin, oh, brother, even like looking at plants. People who are landscapers will look at plants and be like, oh, Sisto, what's wrong with you, tree? And they think of it, they think of it in this way, and it affects the entire mentality. And since we live here, we get to have that great, wonderful, positive effect. And so come visit.
I definitely will, man. 100%. It's on my list.
I think that's a great place for us to wrap it up. Thank you so much. Tell people where they can reach out and get in touch with you. I love your website. Go ahead.
Yeah, definitely, man. nicknicknick.com/links is connections to every one of my social media pages. And you'll see all the ways to get on the podcast too. And nicknicknick.com just in general, there's the resources and stuff on there. So I'm everywhere. You'll be sick of me soon. The podcast is everywhere. I'm on all social media platforms. So yeah, just reach out, start a conversation. If there's anything I can help with, man, I would love to. If you just need a good referral for someplace to go do jujitsu, let me know. I got contacts all over.
There you go. And if you're selling a big property, if you're looking to buy a property, that's what you do. You have those referrals to get those out to people, right?
100%.
You have a list, right?
Yeah.
Gotta get on the Nick list.
There you go, man. Dude, this was awesome catching up to you. I really appreciate the invite, and I love what you're doing, man. I think it's outstanding.
Me too. I've had a really wonderful time. Hey, we're going to talk offline too.
100%, man. Anytime.
Right. Aloha.
Have a great day.